Most of us walk around carrying a quiet assumption that somewhere deep inside our skull sits a permanent file, a solid, unchanging core that defines exactly who we are. But if you sit quietly and ask yourself, "Who am I?" the answer rarely sits still. It bends to fit the mood you're in, the people you are standing next to, and the specific memories drifting through your mind at that exact second. Neuroscience reached a clear consensus on this by 2025. There is no static self-file in the brain. Instead, your default mode network reconstructs your self-narrative on the fly. Every time you recall who you are, in a small way, rewriting the story. If the architecture of your identity is that fluid, it raises the question of whether the history you base your life on is a fabrication. The ODTOE framework identifies this neurofluidity as the specific biological mechanism that allows humans to survive their own histories. This survival depends on a division of personal history into two distinct layers. At the base is the chronicle. Above it flows the meaning. Navigating the traumas and triumphs of your past requires recognizing that these two layers operate under entirely different physical and psychological rules. The bottom layer, the chronicle, is perfectly rigid. The factual events, the exact dates, the things people said to you, they stay put. They are immune to retrocausality. You cannot alter the facts. The top layer works differently. The mind operates as a strange loop. It asks, "Who am I?" and the answer feeds back as input. Initial answers wander, but repeating the cycle filters out noise, eventually producing an answer that perfectly reproduces itself. In the mathematics of self-observation, this stable output is called a coherent fixed point. Identity functions as a process, the stable, self-reproducing answer your mind settles on to hold its pieces together. Maintaining that stable answer requires work. Every time you retrieve a memory, it leaves cold storage and enters a brief, unstable state. This vulnerability matters when you encounter a prediction error, a moment where present reality directly contradicts the story your internal self-model expected. Confronted with that error, the brain has to adapt. Studies on memory reconsolidation show that the brain prioritizes internal consistency over factual accuracy. It actively edits the narrative role of the old memory to make the new piece fit. The system rewrites the emotional weight and the significance of the event to keep your sense of self intact. The factual record remains completely untouched. Out of an entire lifetime of memories, what decides which specific fragments get folded into your identity today? The deciding factor is attention. In this model, attention acts as precision weighting. It functions as an internal tuning knob, assigning narrative weight to specific memory traces while leaving others in the dark. If you tune that attention toward grief, grief-shaped memories resonate, integrate, and dominate your fixed point. If you tune it toward personal agency, an entirely different constellation of the self lights up. The exact same historical facts, building a completely different person. We do not possess the ability to alter the events of our past, but by shifting the precision weighting of our attention, we hold the power to completely reshape the architecture of our identity. It is tempting to assume that the goal of psychological health is to build a perfectly consistent, airtight story of yourself. But identity quality operates on a curve. Push consistency too low, and you reach a total loss of connectedness. Memories fail to integrate at all, resulting in a fractured, dissociative state. Push consistency to the absolute maximum, and you hit over-densification. The narrative collapses into rigidity. Every single life event is aggressively forced to conform one ruminative story, trapping the individual in their own history. True health exists at the interior optimum. It is a state coherent enough to maintain one continuous persona, yet loose enough to absorb new realities and revise itself. Perfect consistency is a clinical trap. Resilience requires a system that breathes. This ongoing, deliberate calibration of your internal consistency is what ODTOE refers to as the frequency of the soul. The system operates on a strict law. The metric you use to assign meaning defines the reality you inhabit. Because facts are fixed and only meaning moves, you can revise the role a deep wound plays in your life story. You can change its weight and its purpose without ever denying the hard reality that the wound occurred. Identity is a tunable instrument. By changing the frequency of meaning, you alter your world, keeping your true history beautifully intact.